Liquid is boiling. That liquid nitrogen is boiling. Isn't that weird that something so cold would be boiling? So boiling just refers to a phase transition when a substance goes from a liquid to a gas. Okay, and it happens very quickly, and it's happening on the surface of the ball because the ball is actually warmer than the liquid itself. And so the liquid is being boiled, just like when you boil water in a pot.
Looks like the ball is floating.
It is floating.
Oh, it is.
Yeah, it definitely is.
I can't see it.
Okay, so I'm just gonna get this ball nice and cold. You notice that there's a bunch of white stuff there, so that's just water ice that has frozen onto the surface. And that's just because it's so cold that any air molecules that happen to be water, and they stick and then they're freezing and they're making it ice. So this is actually a process that I studied in my lab, actually. But I take atoms of hydrogen and oxygen, and then I freeze them onto a really cold surface, so much colder than this, about 6 Kelvin, with liquid helium, and then I study the chemistry in terms of how they join together to make water.
Explosive?
It's not explosive. Not on a solid. Okay, so here is our ball again. And if you guys don't mind, I'm just going to toss it up into the air.
Okay. Whoa! I told you!
There we
I think
go.
called that. Called it. Don't touch it!
Stay back, gentlemen.
No.
They're cold. These pieces are cold. So rubber turns very hard when it freezes.
Sit down. Sit down.
Sit down.
Julius, I'm not asking again.
So if you guys, do we have time for another one?
Sure.
Wait, can you freeze an M&M? Can you freeze an M&Ms?
You can, but I would not want you to eat it afterwards.
We know. We just want to freeze it.
Not because the M&M turns toxic, but because if you try to eat it, it would possibly stick to your tongue and then burn your tongue.
We're not that stupid though, so.
Well, amazingly, there is some graduate students at UC San Diego that tried to make some dipping dots, which is actually how you make dipping dots, but they didn't let their homemade dipping dots actually warm up to just normal freezing. They were still super cold, and they burned their tongues doing that. So.
Did they actually go to the hospital?
They didn't, but food did not taste very, very good for a couple of weeks. Okay, so have a think. If you don't mind, I'm gonna just grab one of those flowers.
Yeah.
And see what happens to a flower when we freeze it.
Yeah. Yeah. We are about to do this. How can I make Silo? Adding sugar. There we go. Sugar.
Flowers. Do you think anything's gonna happen? Is it gonna expand, contract?
He's gonna die. It'll harden into a fossil.
Definitely.
It died.
Sit down. If you are in the front, you need to sit. Nick, you need to
It's
sit.
liquid. It looks like
Katie,
water.
sit. Alea,
Just
sit.
because it's clear and liquid does not mean that it's water. Okay. So let me do the water, the flower first. Flower has water in it, so all the water in the petals and everywhere else have frozen.
You can tell. It's winter.
And
It looks like it's winter.
I'm just gonna go ahead and drop it.
Please.
It kind of broke apart, yeah.
Okay, it's not gonna shrink.
It did not shrink. Interesting. Interesting about water is that it actually doesn't shrink when it freezes, it actually expands, which is why icebergs, even though they're made out of water, frozen water, they float on top because they're less dense. That's actually very fortunate for us.
Whoa! Can you freeze a condom? What? Can I take that home? You freeze a condom and you just put it on the ground and smash it.
Alright, so this last ball here, I think it's been in there quite a long time, nice and solid. gonna try to bounce it. Hold on. I'm freezing my hand up.
Protect yourself.
1.
Don't touch, don't touch, don't touch, don't touch.
Intoxicated.
Why
It's
does
like
it?
a basketball.
Why does it look like it's smoking?
Freezing. No, because the water is inside of the
There's a piece right there and a car right ran over and got flat.
warm air is cooling. No,
The warm air?
warm air is
There's another piece.
Yeah, it's cooling down as it gets close to the
There's
surface.
another piece.
And the water in that warm air is turning to
Is that rubber one or
ice.
rubber again?
Is it rubber again?
Is that one that goes down? Yeah, it is.
Jonah, please sit. Jonah, please sit. Please sit. We'll take care of it.
Yep. Go.
Which means that's rubber too. Can I pick it up?
Wait, I'll get it.
Yep. Still very
Oh, this is wood.
Yeah.
Let's park up
And I kind of
over here.